This story is titled, "We're Taking Your Office Space," Dad said over dinner. I nodded and said, "Okay, I'll clear it out tomorrow." The next morning, I found a new apartment without telling them. And now they are calling me nonstop because they cannot afford to live without my help. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. "We're taking your office space," my old man announced over dinner last night. Not asked, told. I was halfway through my burger when he dropped it like he was commenting on the fucking weather. My stomach knotted up, but I forced this pathetic fake smile and muttered, "Fine, whatever, I'll clear it out tomorrow." In my head, though, I was thinking, are you serious with this shit again? See, 26 male, still living at home after getting my CS degree because Bay Area rent is insane, and I've been trying to build up my web development business. That office space wasn't just a room. It was the converted garage where I've been working 60-hour weeks for the past 3 years, landing clients and building my portfolio while paying $850 a month rent to my parents, plus utilities, plus groceries half the time. My dickhead brother Ethan, 19 male, sat across from me with his smug little smirk, golden child extraordinaire. Failed out of community college twice, but somehow mom and dad still think the sun shines out of his ass. He wanted my workspace for his streaming career, which consists of him playing Valorant badly for an audience of maybe 12 people. Ethan needs the space for his equipment, mom chimed in, not even looking up from her phone. His followers are really growing, and this could be his big break. Yeah, all 38 of them. Meanwhile, I just landed a $5,000 contract last month that helped pay for the new water heater when theirs crapped out during Christmas. Not that anyone bothered to say thanks. Plus, Dad added through a mouthful of fries, "Your brother needs privacy. The living room isn't cutting it. Privacy. For the kid who hadn't contributed a single fucking dollar to this household." Meanwhile, I've been the one re-shingling the roof last summer, fixing mom's car when it broke down, and upgrading the home network when Dad kept bitching about his Netflix buffering. I've dumped at least $9,000 into this place over the past year, and they act like I'm some random tenant they're doing a favor. Ethan kept grinning wider, like he'd won something. That's how it's always been. Him taking, me giving. Since we were kids, he was the special one who needed extra help, extra attention, extra everything. When I made honor roll, they nodded. When he passed a class with a C-, they took him out for ice cream. I stabbed at my fries, ketchup splattering on the tablecloth. Mom frowned at the mess, but honestly, I was too pissed to care. The garage was my space, my sanctuary from their bullshit. But clearly, I wasn't even entitled to that. "You can set up in the basement," Dad offered, like he was being generous. The fucking basement. With its half-finished walls, concrete floor, and that persistent mildew smell. Where the Wi-Fi barely reaches and the ceiling is so low I have to hunch. Where they store all their crap. But I just nodded because what else could I do? I've spent my whole life being reasonable while they catered to Ethan's every whim. That night, I sat in my garage office, staring at the setup I'd built. The custom desk I'd made from reclaimed wood, the perfect cable management, the sound absorption panels I'd installed. 3 years of building my space, my business. And they were giving it to a teenager who couldn't even be bothered to wash his own dishes. Something inside me just snapped. I should probably back up and explain the Ethan situation, because it's key to understanding why this desk thing hit me so hard. From day one, this kid has been treated like he's made of glass. When we were growing up, if I got a B+, Dad would ask why it wasn't an A. If Ethan got a C-, they'd celebrate like he'd won a Nobel Prize. "He's just wired differently," Mom would say. "He needs more support." Meanwhile, I was the responsible one who had his shit together. Translation: the kid they didn't have to worry about, so they didn't. When I was 16, I saved for 6 months to buy my first laptop. Ethan got the newest iPhone for his 12th birthday because all his friends had one. I busted my ass for a scholarship to state. Ethan flunked out of community college, and they blamed his professors for not understanding his learning style, then paid for him to try again at a different school, which he also flunked out of. When I moved back home after graduation, the deal was I'd pay rent and stay until I got established. Reasonable. But somehow I also became the in-house tech support, handyman, and emergency fund. Last year, the furnace died during the coldest week of January. Repair bill, $2,700. Guess whose savings paid for it? Not my parents, who both work decent jobs. Definitely not Ethan, who was between opportunities. Me, with the promise they'd pay me back soon. Still waiting on that. 3 months ago, Dad's car needed a new transmission. $1,800 from my client funds. Last summer, I spent 2 weeks replacing the deck that was rotting through, paid for the materials, did the labor, while Ethan played video games inside. When they had friends over to see the new deck, Dad joked, "Yeah, got it done for cheap." Never mentioned I built the damn thing. Every time I try to bring this stuff up, Mom gets teary and Dad gets defensive. Family helps family, he'll say. But it only ever seems to go one direction. So yeah, the garage workspace meant a lot to me. It was the one place in this house that was mine, where I built something from nothing. And now they were handing it to Ethan, because his streaming career might take off someday. That night, I couldn't sleep. Just lay there cataloging every time they'd chosen him over me. Every time they'd taken from me to give to him. Every time I'd swallowed my anger and played along. Not anymore. The next morning, I skipped the usual family breakfast. Couldn't stand to look at Ethan's smug face or listen to Mom talk about how they'd redecorate my workspace for him. Instead, I sat in my car in the driveway, scrolling apartment listings. I'd been saving for my own place, but the way Bay Area rent is, I figured I needed at least another year. But fuck it. I'd live on ramen if I had to. Found a studio in Oakland, 500 square feet, dated kitchen, but it had a decent-sized alcove perfect for my desk setup. $1,850 a month, which was actually below market for anything not actively on fire. The landlord wanted first, last, and security, $5,550 up front. I had $8,200 saved. It would be tight, but doable. I fired off an email with my credit score and income verification from my business. Got a response within an hour. Available now. Can you come see it this afternoon? Hell yes, I could. The place was exactly as advertised. Small, slightly worn around the edges, but clean. Big windows, no mildew smell, no Ethan, no parents acting like every dollar I earned belonged to the family fund, which somehow always got spent on whatever Ethan wanted. I'll take it, I told the landlord. A chill older lady named Janet who said she preferred renting to quiet professionals over party kids. Signed the paperwork on the spot, paid the deposit, got the keys. Holy shit, just like that, I had my escape plan. Driving home, I felt this weird mix of triumph and fury. I should have done this years ago. Instead, I'd been bankrolling a family that saw me as nothing but a resource to exploit. Well, resources can dry up. I didn't tell them about the apartment. Instead, when Mom texted asking if I could pick up groceries on the way home, I wrote back, sure, like nothing had changed. But I didn't buy the usual $200 worth, just milk and bread, the bare minimum. Where's the rest? She asked when I walked in with one sad little bag. Budget's tight this month, I said, shrugging. Figured we could all chip in. The look on her face, like I'd suggested we start eating the furniture. But you always get the groceries on Tuesdays. Yeah, well, things change. Dad was in the garage, my garage, measuring for Ethan's new streaming desk they were planning to buy. A $600 gaming setup they'd somehow find money for, despite claiming poverty whenever I mentioned the $4,500 they owed me. Hey, the printer's jammed again, he called out when he saw me. Can you take a look? Normally, I'd drop everything to fix it. 20 minutes of my life to extract whatever paper Ethan had crammed in there wrong. Not today. Can't, I said. Client deadline. Can it wait? Your mother needs to print some work stuff. Nope. Bills to pay. I walked past him to my soon-to-be ex office and started casually sorting through my things. Not packing, not obviously, but taking inventory. That night, the printer remained jammed. Mom had to go to Kinko's. Dad grumbled about family responsibilities. I just worked on my laptop, wireless headphones on, a small smile playing at my lips. The next day, Ethan cornered me in the kitchen. Dude, can you drive me to Brandon's? My car's making that noise again. His car. Actually, my old Honda that I'd fixed up and stupidly sold to him for half its value when he got his license, which he hadn't maintained once. Take the bus, I said, not looking up from my coffee. The bus? It's like 5 miles. Sounds like a personal problem. He stormed off to whine to Mom. 10 minutes later, she appeared. That disappointed look she'd perfected. Ryan, your brother needs a ride. It would only take 20 minutes. I've got work. You're just sitting there drinking coffee. Yeah, on my break. From work. That pays my bills. And yours, apparently. Her mouth opened, then closed. She wasn't used to pushback from me. Small rebellions. But man, they felt good. By day 3 of Operation Take Back My Life, cracks were showing in the family system. The lawn, which I'd mowed every Sunday since high school, was getting shaggy. The dishes were piling up in the sink. Usually I loaded the dishwasher without being asked. The Wi-Fi kept dropping because I hadn't reset the router in the usual spots where it got glitchy. Little things. Things they'd taken for granted that I would handle. Dad finally approached me Thursday night, awkwardly hovering in my doorway. So, the lawn's getting kind of out of control. I glanced up from my laptop. Yep, sure is. I figured you were going to mow it last weekend. Nah. A long pause. Are you going to mow it this weekend? Wasn't planning on it. Back to my screen. He shifted uncomfortably. Is something wrong, Ryan? You seem off lately. That was Rich. 3 years of using me as their personal handyman, ATM, and emotional support human, and now he notices something's off. Just busy with work, I said blandly. Well, we're family. We all need to pitch in. I finally looked up at him, letting the words hang there. We all need to pitch in. When was the last time Ethan had pitched in with anything? When had Dad last fixed something instead of waiting for me to do it? Sure, I said finally. I'll add it to the list. I didn't specify what list, but I was definitely keeping score. The next morning, I woke up to raised voices downstairs. Peeked over the banister to see Ethan and Dad arguing about the yard. Why do I have to do it? That's Ryan's job. Your brother's busy. Just do it this once. But I have a stream scheduled. My followers are expecting me. All 38 of them, I thought. Then reschedule it. Jesus Christ, Ethan. It's just lawn mowing. It was like watching a nature documentary. The parasitic relationship disturbed, the host organism finally pushing back against the parasite. Fascinating. I slipped back to my room, started packing another box. I'd been slowly moving my valuables out each day while they were busy arguing about chores. The studio apartment was gradually filling up with my stuff, but the real bombshell dropped that afternoon. I was on a client call when Dad knocked on my door, his face a weird mix of defensive and guilty. Hey, quick thing, he said when I finished. I sold your workbench. Guy's picking it up tomorrow. Got $300 for it. My custom workbench. The one I'd built from scratch, with the perfect height for my ergonomic setup, the built-in cable management, the adjustable monitor arms. You sold my property without asking me? My voice was dangerously calm. Well, Ethan needs a proper streaming desk. And since you're moving to the basement anyway, so you just decided my stuff was yours to sell. He had the grace to look embarrassed. I figured you'd be fine with it. It's for your brother's career. His career, I repeated flatly. Right. Look, we'll split it with you. You can have $100, a third, of the money, for my bench, that I built, with my own hands and my own money. Keep it, I said, turning back to my computer. Consider it my investment in the Bank of Ethan. Seems to be the only place my money goes around here anyway. He left, confused, but relieved I hadn't pushed back harder. As soon as the door closed, I booked a U-Haul for Saturday morning. By Friday, I'd moved about 70% of my belongings to the new apartment. Nothing obvious. TV still in place, bed still made, but clothes, important documents, my good computing equipment, all quietly relocated while they went about their days. The family dynamic was deteriorating fast. Ethan had half-assed the lawn, leaving patches uncut and the edges looking like hell. Dad had attempted to fix the printer, only to break it worse. Mom was getting increasingly snippy about the state of the house. I moved through it all like a ghost, doing the bare minimum. Made my own meals. Cleaned only my own dishes. When the internet went down for the third time that week and Mom called out, "Ryan, the Wi-Fi's acting up again," I just called back, "Try unplugging it." Small satisfactions. Friday night, Dad cornered me again. Look, about your workbench. If you really want to keep it, I can call the guy back. Too little, too late. Don't bother. Ethan's pretty excited about setting up the garage. Maybe you could help him get everything arranged this weekend? You know, make it a brother thing? I almost laughed in his face. A brother thing? After they'd taken my space, tried to sell my property, and treated me like the help for years? I've got plans, I said. What plans? My plans. I brushed past him, headed to my room to pack the last essentials. He followed me up, hovering anxiously. Ryan, what's going on with you lately? Your mother's worried. Of course, not I'm worried, but your mother's worried. Classic dad deflection. Nothing's going on, I said, carefully neutral. Just establishing some boundaries. Boundaries? We're family. And there it was. The magic word that was supposed to excuse everything. Family. The get-out-of-jail-free card they played whenever they wanted something from me. Yes, I agreed. We are family. Which is why it's interesting that when Ethan wants something, it's, we need to support each other. But when I need something, it's, you're an adult. Figure it out. Dad's face flushed. That's not fair. We've supported you plenty. Name one time in the last year you've helped me with anything. One time you've put my needs first. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then tried again. We let you live here, don't we? I pay rent, $850 a month, plus utilities, plus groceries half the time, plus every emergency repair in this house. I'm not living here, Dad. I'm subsidizing all of you. That's ridiculous. You're twisting things. Am I? How much have I spent fixing this place up in the last year? The furnace, the deck, your transmission? Over $8,000. How much has Ethan contributed? Ever? He didn't have an answer for that. And now you're taking my workspace, the one place in this house that's actually mine, and giving it to him, then selling my property without asking. So tell me again how this is a two-way street. Dad's expression cycled through anger, defensiveness, and finally, uncomfortable realization. We didn't think. No, I cut him off. You didn't? I turned back to my closet, started pulling out the last of my clothes, not bothering to hide it now. What are you doing? Dad asked, his voice suddenly uncertain. Packing. For what? I stopped, looked him dead in the eye. I'm moving out. Tomorrow. The shock on his face would have been comical if it wasn't so pathetic. Moving out? Where? Why didn't you tell us? Signed a lease last week, and I'm telling you now. But the basement. We figured that I'd keep bankrolling this household while you guys kept taking? Yeah, that was the plan, wasn't it? He didn't deny it, which told me everything. Ryan, let's talk about this. Your mother will be upset. I'm sure she will be. The ATM is leaving. He left, shell-shocked, and I heard the murmur of urgent voices downstairs. I kept packing, methodical and calm. The storm was coming, and for once, I wasn't going to be the one cleaning up after it. Saturday morning, U-Haul parked conspicuously in the driveway, me carrying out the last of my boxes while the family watched in various states of distress. Mom was crying, of course, her go-to manipulation tactic. I don't understand why you're doing this. Why not talk to us first? Like you talked to me before deciding to take my workspace. I loaded another box, not breaking rhythm. That's different. Ethan needed. Ethan always needs. Ethan always gets. I'm just finally taking myself out of the equation. Dad was alternating between anger and bargaining. This is childish, Ryan. Running away because you didn't get your way. Not running away, I corrected, hefting my computer tower into the truck. Moving on. There's a difference. Ethan was sulking on the porch, his future streaming career suddenly in jeopardy, without me there to set up his equipment and troubleshoot his technical problems. What about my desk? He whined. Dad already sold yours. Sounds like a you problem, I replied, echoing his own favorite phrase back at him. Mom followed me back into the house, still sniffling. I just don't understand where this is coming from. We're family. I stopped, set down the box I was carrying, and faced her directly. Let me make it crystal clear then. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed a marker from the drawer, and a piece of paper from the printer they still hadn't fixed. In large letters, I wrote, Ryan's contributions. Last 12 months. Rent paid, $10,200. Utilities, approximately $1,800. Groceries, approximately $4,800. Furnace repair, $2,700. Dad's transmission, $1,800. Deck rebuild, $1,100 plus 80 hours labor. Regular home maintenance, $2,400 approximately. Tech support, countless hours. Total, $24,800 plus Ethan's contributions. Zero attitude, priceless. I stuck it to the fridge with a magnet. That's where this is coming from. Mom stared at the list, her tears suddenly drying up. It hasn't been that much. Check my bank statements. I kept records. Dad had wandered in and was reading over her shoulder, his face draining of color. The furnace wasn't that expensive, he protested weakly. $2,700. I have the receipt. You said you'd pay me back when things ease up. That was 11 months ago. They exchanged uncomfortable glances. We've been meaning to, Mom started. Save it, I cut her off. I don't even care about the money anymore. What I care about is that I've been keeping this household afloat for years, and you still treat me like I'm the selfish one when I need something. You still put Ethan first every time, even though he contributes nothing. He's younger, Dad tried. He's still finding his way. He's 19. I was working 2 jobs at 19, paying for my own car, my own phone, my own everything. That's because you were more responsible. Mom's voice trailed off as she realized what she was admitting. Right. I was responsible, so you burdened me with everything. He's irresponsible, so you burden him with nothing. And now, you're genuinely shocked that I'm leaving. I picked up my box again. Ryan, wait, Dad said, his voice no longer angry but genuinely alarmed. Let's figure this out. We can make this right. Too late. I signed a lease, paid the deposit. My name's off the utilities here as of Monday. That landed like a bomb. What do you mean your name's off the utilities? Mom asked. I mean, I've been paying the internet, the streaming services, and half the power bill. I called yesterday and had everything transferred or canceled. You've got about 48 hours to figure out new arrangements. Ethan appeared in the doorway, finally catching on that his comfortable life was about to change dramatically. You can't just leave, he protested. Who's going to fix the printer or the Wi-Fi when it goes down? I couldn't help but laugh. That's your first concern, not how will we pay the bills, but who's going to fix my shit for free? I brushed past him, carried the box to the truck. Mom followed me out, now in full panic mode. Ryan, please. We didn't realize how much you were doing. We can work something out. Your father and I will pay you back. With what money? You guys live paycheck to paycheck. We'll figure it out. Please, just don't do this. I closed the U-Haul's rear door, locked it. I've already done it. I'm not asking for the money back. I'm not even asking for an apology, though that would have been nice. I'm just done being the family ATM. But what about Ethan? She asked, and I almost admired her dedication to keeping him at the center of everything. What about him? He's an adult. Let him get a job. He can't find anything in his field. His field? He's a college dropout who plays video games badly on the internet. That's not a field. Harsh, but true. And long overdue. Dad had stormed back inside, but now reappeared with his wallet. He pulled out 520s, his standard emergency cash. Here, he said, thrusting it at me. For the furnace. It's a start. I looked at the money, then back at him. Keep it. You're gonna need it. I climbed into the U-Haul. Mom was openly sobbing now. Dad looked shell-shocked, and Ethan was furiously texting someone, probably complaining about his terrible family. I'll call you when I'm settled, I told them, which was more courtesy than they deserved. As I pulled away, I glanced in the side mirror. They stood in the driveway looking lost. For the first time in their adult lives, they were going to have to solve their own problems. The first week in my new place was fucking blissful. No one barging in asking for tech support. No family dinner guilt trips. No expectation that I'd drop everything to chauffeur Ethan around. Just me. My reclaimed workspace set up exactly how I wanted it, and the glorious silence of a space that was 100% mine. I got a text from Mom the day after I left. The internet's not working. Did you really cancel it? I didn't respond. Let them figure it out. 3 days later, a call from Dad. The hot water heater's making a noise. YouTube has lots of DIY videos, I suggested, and hung up. By the end of the week, the texts were coming hourly. The printer still wasn't working. The yard was a jungle. None of them knew how to reset the router properly. The streaming services were gone. Ethan's career was stalled because he couldn't figure out how to set up his equipment. Can you just come over for an hour? Mom pleaded. We'll pay you. My contractor rate is $95 an hour, 2-hour minimum, payment upfront, I replied. That shut her up for a while. But the following Tuesday, exactly 10 days after I moved out, the real crisis hit. I got a panicked call from Dad at 8 a.m. The furnace quit again! The house is freezing! It was mid-February, temperatures in the 30s at night. Call the HVAC company, I suggested. They want $200 just to come out, plus parts and labor. Welcome to home ownership. Ryan, please, we don't have that kind of money right now. Of course they didn't. They'd been counting on me to handle all that. What about the emergency fund? I asked, knowing full well there wasn't one. Your mother had to use it for groceries, he admitted. Translation. They'd been living beyond their means for years, using me as the safety net. That sounds serious, I said, trying to keep the satisfaction from my voice. Maybe Ethan can contribute from his streaming income? The silence on the other end was delicious. He doesn't. That's not really... Dad fumbled. Not really bringing in money yet? Shocking. I let him stew for a moment, then sighed dramatically. Text me the exact error code on the furnace display. I'll see if it's something simple. It wasn't, of course. The igniter had failed. A $95 part plus labor. But I knew it wasn't something they could fix themselves without risking bigger problems. You've got two options, I told Dad after researching it. Pay the HVAC company or replace the igniter yourself and risk damaging the control board, which would be another $600 repair. Can't you just come look at it? He almost begged. I'm in the middle of a client project with a deadline, I said, which was true. But tell you what, if you and Ethan want to come by tonight, I'll walk you through ordering the part and show you some YouTube tutorials on how to replace it. There was a long pause. Dad, considering whether his pride was worth suffering in a cold house. What time? He finally asked. 7 p.m. and Dad? Bring Ethan. He should learn this stuff if he's going to keep living there. That night, they both showed up at my door, looking uncomfortable. It was the first time they'd seen my new place. It's nice, Dad offered, looking around at my perfectly arranged studio. My desk, not the one they'd sold, but a new one I'd found on Craigslist and refinished, took pride of place by the window. Thanks. I didn't invite them to sit. Let's talk furnace. I pulled up the manual for their unit, showed them exactly which part they needed, where to order it, and how to install it. I don't think I can do this, Dad admitted, staring at the diagram. I definitely can't, Ethan added, not even bothering to hide his lack of interest. Then you'll need to call the HVAC company. Ryan, please. Dad tried one more time. We really don't have the money right now. Couldn't you just… No, I said firmly. I couldn't. But we're If you say family, I'm going to close this door right now, I warned him. Family goes both ways. And for years, it's only gone one way with us. He swallowed whatever he was going to say. Look, I softened slightly. I'll make you a deal. I'll come fix the furnace this one time. But in exchange, we're going to have a serious family meeting about finances and responsibilities. All cards on the table. And Ethan starts contributing. Real contributions, not promises. Dad looked relieved. Deal. Absolutely. Ethan frowned. What do you mean, contributing? I mean you get a job. A real one with a paycheck. You pay rent. You do chores without being nagged. You learn how to fix basic household stuff, so it doesn't all fall on Dad now that I'm gone. But my streaming is a hobby, not a career. Not yet, anyway. You can stream on your days off, just like any other hobby. He looked like he wanted to argue, but Dad shot him a warning look. Fine, Ethan muttered. The next day, I went over and fixed their furnace. It took about an hour, start to finish. Then I called a family meeting at the kitchen table. I laid it all out, their actual expenses versus income, the reality of what it would cost to replace all the services I'd been providing for free, and a proposed budget going forward, including $250 per month rent from Ethan. That's not fair, he protested. I don't have any money. That's why you'll get a job, I explained, like I was talking to a toddler. McDonald's is hiring. So is Target. So is every warehouse in the area. Those aren't real jobs. They pay real money. Money you need. Mom looked teary again. Ryan, he's not like you. He struggles with… With what, exactly? He's not disabled. He's not sick. He's a perfectly healthy 19-year-old who's been allowed to coast because it was easier than holding him accountable. Dad surprisingly backed me up. Your brother's right, Ethan. Things need to change around here. The look of betrayal on Ethan's face was priceless. He wasn't used to Dad taking anyone's side but his. This is bullshit, he declared, standing up. I'm not getting some lame-ass job just because Ryan decided to be a dick about money. Yes, you are, Dad said, his voice firmer than I'd heard it in years. Or you're finding somewhere else to live. Holy shit. Actual parenting happening before my eyes. Ethan stormed out, slamming his door like the adult he definitely wasn't. He'll calm down, Mom said, but she sounded uncertain. And if he doesn't? I asked. Dad sighed heavily. Then he really will have to figure something else out. We can't keep going like this. I hadn't expected that. Maybe, just maybe, they were finally getting it. What about you? I asked. I meant what I said about all cards on the table. I've been subsidizing this household for years. That stops now. They looked at each other, then nodded slowly. We'll figure it out, Dad said. Get on a budget. Maybe pick up some extra shifts. Good, I said, standing up. I'll check in next week to see how it's going. As I headed for the door, Mom called after me. Will you come for dinner sometimes? Not to fix things, just to visit. I paused. Maybe, once you guys get your house in order. Literally and figuratively. 3 weeks later, Ethan got a job at a warehouse. Entry level, but decent pay. The look on his face the first time he had to hand over rent money to Dad was something I'll treasure forever. Dad dug out his old tools and started learning basic home repairs from YouTube. Mom set up a real budget and stuck to it. They even started paying me back for the furnace. Small amounts, but regular. And me? I'm killing it at my new place. Business is booming now that I don't have family drama eating up my mental bandwidth. I've got boundaries. I've got peace. I've got that satisfying feeling that comes from watching people finally face reality. I still go over for dinner occasionally, but now when something breaks, I don't automatically jump up to fix it. I watch as Dad and Ethan figure it out together. It took burning it all down to build something better. And I don't regret it for a second. Final update. It's been half a year since I moved out and forced my family to face reality, and the transformation is actually kind of shocking. Last weekend, I stopped by for the monthly family dinner we've established. On my terms, where I'm a guest, not the household ATMR repairman. The lawn was actually mowed. The kitchen sink wasn't piled with dishes. And most surprisingly, Ethan wasn't glued to his gaming setup. Turns out, the golden child learned some harsh lessons these past months. His streaming career hit a wall fast once he had to balance it with his warehouse job. No more 12-hour gaming marathons when you've got an 8-hour shift moving boxes. He bitched about it constantly at first, according to Mom, but something unexpected happened. He got promoted to shift lead last week, Dad told me proudly over pot roast. Youngest one they've ever had in that position. Ethan actually looked embarrassed by the praise, which was new. It's not a big deal. Just means more responsibility for barely more money. Welcome to adulthood, I said, but without the bite I would have had before. The real shocker came after dinner, when the dishwasher made a weird grinding noise mid-cycle. Shit, Dad muttered. Then, instead of looking at me expectantly, he turned to Ethan. Can you take a look at that tomorrow? Probably just something caught in the filter. And Ethan just nodded, like this was normal, like he'd been handling household maintenance all along. He's gotten pretty good with basic repairs, Mom explained, seeing my surprised face. After you left and the toilet broke for the third time, he finally took initiative. YouTube tutorials, Ethan shrugged. Same ones you used to watch. I almost fell out of my chair. Later, Dad walked me out to my car and awkwardly handed me an envelope. Inside was $500 cash. It's not everything we owe you, he said quickly. But we've been putting aside a little each month. Figured we'd start making real payments, not just token ones. I was genuinely speechless. For years, money had only flowed one direction in this family, from my pocket to theirs. This reversal felt alien. Thanks, I finally managed. I appreciate it. We should have done better by you, Dad said, staring at his shoes. I didn't realize how much we were taking advantage until you weren't there to take advantage of anymore. It's not an excuse, but I'm sorry. Again, words I never thought I'd hear. Ethan's different too, he continued. Having real responsibilities, earning his own money. It's been good for him. Made him grow up. Better late than never, I said, but without rancor. Yeah. Dad hesitated, then asked, You doing okay? Place working out? Better than okay, I told him truthfully. Business has doubled since I moved. Turns out not having my resources drained constantly lets me focus on actually building something. He winced slightly but nodded. You deserved better from us. As I drove home, I realized something had shifted fundamentally. My family hadn't just adjusted to my absence, they'd actually grown from it. Ethan was developing into a functioning adult. My parents were taking responsibility for their finances. And most importantly, they were finally acknowledging what they'd done. Obligatory disclaimer. Yeah, I know some of you will say I should have cut contact completely. Trust me, I considered it. But despite everything, they're still my family. I'm not saying everyone should reconcile. Some families are truly toxic beyond repair. But in my case, once they showed actual change and remorse, I decided a controlled relationship was worth trying. Your mileage may vary. The following week, I got a text from Ethan that nearly made me crash my car. Hey, got a bonus at work. Wanted to pay you back for the bike Dad sold. It was a dick move. Let me know your Venmo. I'm not making this shit up. I literally had to pull over because I thought I was hallucinating, or someone had stolen his phone. I actually checked if I was hallucinating. The golden child acknowledging a wrong and offering to make it right, without being forced. I sent him my Venmo info, half expecting nothing to come of it. 10 minutes later, $300 hit my account with the note. For the bike. Sorry it took so long. It wasn't just about the money. It was the recognition, the acknowledgement that what had happened wasn't okay. That weekend, something even weirder happened. Ethan called, not texted, actually called, and asked if I'd help him set up a basic budget spreadsheet. The warehouse is offering a 401k match, and I don't know shit about investing, but I figure I should start. I invited him over, showed him how to track expenses, explained compound interest, and set him up with some basic financial literacy resources. The entire time he paid attention, asked questions, took notes, like an actual adult human. As he was leaving, he paused at the door. Your place is really nice. Way better than that moldy basement they were going to stick you in. Thanks. I like it. He shifted awkwardly. I was a real asshole about the garage and a lot of other stuff. I didn't realize how much you were carrying for everyone. I hadn't expected an apology from him. Not ever, really. Water under the bridge, I said, meaning it. Mom and Dad really miss having you around, he added. Not just for fixing stuff. They actually miss you. I miss certain things too, I admitted. Not the exploitation part, but the good parts of family. He nodded, understanding. For what it's worth, I'm glad you stood up for yourself. Shit needed to change. Now, 6 months out, I can honestly say my scorched earth exit was the best thing I could have done. Not just for me, but for all of us. Mom and Dad are on a budget for the first time in their adult lives. They've started building an emergency fund. Dad's become surprisingly handy around the house. Ethan's not just working, he's thriving with actual structure and expectations. He still games and streams occasionally, but as a hobby, not a delusional career plan. He's talking about taking classes at community college again, but with a realistic plan this time. And me? I've started dating again, joined a rock climbing gym, expanded my client base. All the energy that used to go into propping up my family now goes into building my own life. I still maintain firm boundaries. I don't lend money. I don't drop everything to fix their problems. But the dynamic has completely transformed. We're slowly rebuilding a relationship based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. It's still a work in progress, but for the first time, it feels like progress is actually happening. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for people is to stop enabling their worst behaviors. It's messy and painful, but if they're capable of growth at all, they might just thank you for it eventually. My family did, and I never saw that plot twist coming. Edit. For those asking if I'll ever fully trust them again, probably not 100%, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets, as they say. They're earning those drops back slowly,